Barra discovers hidden truths behind GM's V8 scandal-inspiring change for 100,000 lives. Mary sat at her desk, the weight of the world pressing down on her shoulders. As the CEO of General Motors, she had always fought for her company, but now the shadows of the V8 scandal loomed large, threatening to crush everything she held dear. Her heart raced, knowing that the lives of nearly 100,000 employees hinged on every decision she made. The streets of Detroit felt charged, filled with the heartbeat of factory workers, dedicated men and women who thrived on the promise of hard work and loyalty. She thought of the father she had learned about earlier that day, a factory worker buckling under the pressure of mounting medical bills after his son was diagnosed with a life-altering disability. Tears stung her eyes as she pictured the desperate family, faces drawn and grim, wrestling with uncertainty. This father was more than just a number. He was a friend of a friend, a part of her community, and his struggle echoed the challenges faced by countless others who depended on GM for their livelihoods. Mary balled her hands into fists, remembering her own father. He had taught her that integrity and hard work defined a person, principles that ran deeper than the machines they built. But now, those values were being tested by the moral decay that had seeped into the corporate culture surrounding her. Faced with huge debts and a fragile life, it was easy to feel powerless. But Mary, armed with resolve and compassion, knew she had to act. She could hear the voices of corporate colleagues discussing numbers and reputations, dismissing the man's plight like so much excess baggage. Greed rang in their words, loud and intolerant. She felt anger swelling inside her. It was time to bring humanity back to the table. The flashbacks of her childhood in Detroit, the factory smells, the roar of machinery were a reminder of a community built on grit. How dare they put profit over people? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Her thoughts flickered with urgency. What would happen if she turned her back on those who labored day in and day out? The stakes soared, not just for herself, but for everyone counting on GM. She took a deep breath, grasping the balance between loyalty and justice. Could she expose the deceit lurking in the shadows without sending ripples through the lives of the workers she cherished? Mary's heart raced, an unsettled storm brewing inside her. The office felt empty despite being filled with people. She could see it now, a chasm between corporate ambition and the struggle of hard-working families. She refused to allow the crisis to define her. She had one chance to shine a light on the truth, even if it meant sacrificing her own comfort. Would she gather her courage, forge a new path, and inspire a wave of change? Or would she let the fear of consequences snuff out the flickering hope in her heart? As she stared at the blank wall before her, one thought echoed in her mind. The community she loved depended on her. The moment to choose had come. Mary took a deep breath, trying to center herself amid the chaos of her thoughts. She had always believed that change could emerge from the most challenging situations. It was time to act, to lead with both heart and head. Her gaze fell on a clipboard filled with reports. Each paper contained charts, graphs, and numbers. But they represented more than profits and losses. They represented lives, families depending on her choices. Walking over to the window, she let the murmur of Detroit fill her ears. The city had always been tough, much like the people who called it home. Mary closed her eyes, letting the familiar sounds swirl around her like a comforting embrace. But that comfort was short-lived, replaced by the anger bubbling beneath the surface. She wouldn't allow those at the top to overlook the very real struggles of their workers. Her mind raced. If she exposed the truth, it wouldn't just be a fight for her company. It could shift the entire narrative around corporate responsibility. The fear of backlash loomed like a dark cloud, yet the thought of doing nothing felt unbearable. Mary, a voice interrupted her focus. It was Chuck, her right-hand man, standing hesitantly by the door. "You okay?" She forced a smile, but it felt thin and brittle. "No, Chuck, I'm not okay. We need to gather some people, fact finders, engineers, even some factory workers. We need to get the truth about these V8 complaints out into the open. Chuck's eyebrows shot up in surprise. Are you sure that's a good idea? The backlash could hurt us. Mary shook her head fiercely. What is the alternative? Turning a blind eye while our workers suffer? We can't build a future like that. He hesitated but nodded slowly. All right. If you think it's the right move, I'm with you. The right move? She echoed, the doubt creeping in again. No one in management ever wants to take these kinds of risks. You're not like everyone else, Mary, he said, sincerity etched across his face. You care. She appreciated Chuck's loyalty. It gave her a flicker of hope, but she remained acutely aware of the mountain ahead. A gathering of voices, each with their own perspective and stories to share about the effects of the scandal, could reveal a truth far more powerful than any report. That evening, Mary spent hours compiling a list of people to interview. Each name was accompanied by a story and experience that would shed light on the betrayal felt by those around her. Her heart swelled with empathy, but also a sense of urgency. Time was not on her side, and that nagged at her relentlessly. As she hit the send button on her email blast, inviting a mix of workers, engineers, and industry experts to join a confidential meeting. A wave of uncertainty washed over her. Was she ready for the truths they would uncover? Would she be able to handle the revelations, knowing they could shake the very foundation of GM? But then she thought of that father and countless others. They were the inspiration she needed. After a few moments of stillness, she felt the flicker of excitement rise within her. This was the beginning of change, a road paved with uncertainty but also compassion. She stood up, feeling a resolve settle over her like a warm blanket. This was her moment to steer GM into a more honest and human-centric future, but somewhere deep down, another unsettling thought loomed. What if the truth was worse than she could ever imagine? And as she stared at her reflection in the glass, the future felt both exhilarating and terrifying. With her phone buzzing with a reply from an eager consultant, she knew one thing was clear. The journey was only just beginning. The next morning, the buzz of excitement hung thick in the air as Mary paced her office, her heart pounding with each step. The meeting loomed ahead, a mix of hope and anxiety swirling within her. Would they be able to share their truths? Would they feel safe opening up? Chuck had organized the room for the meeting, setting up chairs in a circle to encourage dialogue. As Mary arrived, she noticed familiar faces among the crowd. Workers she had seen during her visits to the factory, engineers who had dedicated their lives to the brand. Each one seemed to radiate a unique blend of caution and anticipation. Thanks for being here, she began, her voice steady but laced with emotion. Today isn't just about the complaints. It's about understanding how this affects all of us, our families, our community, our future. The room was silent, but beneath that stillness lay a tension that felt electric. Finally, an older worker named Tom spoke up. Mary, we've been through the ringer with these engines. It's not just the V8s, it's trust. Us, the people on the ground. We feel like we're losing faith in a company we've given our lives to. Mary felt a lump in her throat at his words. The truth hung heavy in the air, but it was a truth that needed to be expressed. You're right, Tom. And I'm not here to pretend everything is okay. I want to be honest about the challenges we face. One by one, other voices joined in. A young engineer shared her frustration about being sidelined in the decision-making process. A factory manager detailed late-night shifts where safety concerns were drowned out by production quotas. The stories poured out, raw and vulnerable. Mary felt a rush of emotions: anger, sadness, and an overwhelming sense of responsibility. Each name, each face tied to these stories, represented hope for change. This was their moment, a collective awakening that could lead to real transformation. As they spoke, Mary scribbled notes, her heart echoing the rhythm of the room. The more they shared, the more she realized the depths of the issues they faced. Beyond just engine flaws, it was a cry for respect, for dignity, a plea for all the unseen sacrifices made to keep GM alive. When the conversation paused, Mary looked around, the weight of what they had uncovered sinking in. I promise you, she said, her voice stronger now. We will take your stories beyond these walls. This isn't the end. It's the beginning of something greater. Together, we can make GM a better place for everyone. A murmur of agreement spread through the group, but it was tinged with caution. They had been promised change before. As Mary glanced at Chuck, she saw he had taken a solemn expression, reflecting the enormity of the challenge ahead. Just as the meeting was about to conclude, a tremor rippled through the air. Someone had a vital point still left unsaid. A young woman stood up, her hands shaking slightly. What if they come after us? What if we lose our jobs for speaking up? The room fell silent again. Fear hung there, palpable and real. Mary felt the anxiety seep into her bones. She had to think fast, to reassure them while also acknowledging the risks they all faced. We can face this together, she urged. We'll ensure everyone's voice is protected. I won't let you stand alone in this fight. We'll create a safe haven for all of us. I promise. The response was a fragile wave of hope. But deep down, Mary felt that gnawing question linger. What would be the repercussions of their truth? And could she truly shield them from the storm that might follow? As the meeting dispersed, a shared stare with Chuck revealed a silent agreement between them. They were entering a battle far bigger than either had anticipated. Little did she know, in the shadows, someone had overheard their intentions. The following days passed in a blur for Mary. Each morning, she woke with a sense of purpose, but as night fell, shadows crept into her mind. Doubts lingered like clouds. Had they opened Pandora's box? What had they ignited with those honest words? She steeled herself for any backlash that might come from upper management, but she couldn't shake the fear for her colleagues who had bared their souls in the meeting. Chuck was her rock through this storm. Every day, they met in her office, poring over the notes she had taken. We need to craft a plan, he urged, his brow furrowed with intensity. We owe it to every single person who spoke. But we also can't ignore the risk. Mary nodded, her thoughts racing. The responsibility felt heavier than the weight of the engines they produced. If we don't stand up for them now, who will? She challenged softly, more determined than scared. She could almost hear Tom's voice resonating in her ears, urging her to keep going. Despite the tension, moments of connection flourished. Some workers approached her in the hall, sharing gratitude for being heard. Others, though, wore worry etched on their faces. Mary caught glimpses of whispered conversations as she walked by. They could feel the company's scrutiny tightening. The stakes were high. Then came the email. It was vague, mentioning a company-wide meeting. The purpose was unclear, but the timing couldn't be coincidental. Mary's heart raced. They know, she whispered, glancing at Chuck, who scanned the message with narrowed eyes. He sighed. We need to be careful. If they come down on us, it could put everyone in jeopardy. Mary's mind raced as she navigated the options. We should bring our concerns to the forefront, address it head-on. We can't back down now. When the day of the meeting arrived, the company conference room felt more like an arena than a workplace. Executives sat at one end, their expressions guarded, while Mary and Chuck took their seats among the workers. A palpable tension filled the air, and the breath of 100 anxious hearts could almost be heard like a drumbeat. Mary stood at the front, her legs trembling slightly. Thank you for gathering here today. We are at a crucial turning point. I hope this space can become a beacon for truth, for honesty within GM. As she spoke, a wave of emotion washed over her. She was fighting for more than just their jobs. She was championing their dignity. But as her voice rose, a storm brewed behind the closed doors of the executive suite. The moment was thick with anticipation, the workers eager for affirmation, yet terrified of rejection. Suddenly, a shadow moved in the back of the room. A figure emerged, stepping forward with an unmistakable air of authority. Mary's pulse quickened. It was Harlan, one of the top executives known for his ruthlessness. The room seemed to hold its breath. I'm not here to talk about our performance, he began, his tone icy. I'm here because I've received troubling reports about a lack of faith in our leadership. Do you understand what kind of message this sends? Mary's heart raced in her chest. The air felt thick, charged with tension. She exchanged a glance with Chuck, and uncertainty flickered across his face. Tell me, she managed, her voice unwavering. Is this about our risks, or about silencing those who dare to speak their truth? Gasps rippled through the crowd, eyes widening in a mix of disbelief and horror. Was this the moment they had been preparing for? Would she finally unveil the hidden struggles and fears of her peers, or would they get crushed under the weight of corporate intimidation? She took a breath and braced herself, knowing the fight was just beginning. What would be the outcome when the truth clashed with power? Mary felt the weight of the room's silence crushing down on her. Harlan's gaze bore into her, and she sensed that the tension spiraled into something more volatile. As the murmurs of disbelief settled, she remembered the faces of those who had spoken so bravely in their last meeting, their hopes, their fears, their futures hanging in the balance. "Let us be clear," Harlan continued, his voice leaching all warmth from the room. "Those who question our leadership jeopardize our unity. This isn't just about one meeting. It's about company loyalty and productivity. If that trust erodes, we all lose." The implication was as sharp as a knife. Mary watched as uncertainty washed over her colleagues. Were they now terrified of repercussions? She could see their bodies tense up, shoulders tightening like coiled springs ready to snap. "Is this what you want?" Mary challenged, each word weighing heavily in the air. "A workplace where honesty is met with intimidation? That's not unity, that's fear." She held her breath, hope and fear swirling within her. Harlan's brow furrowed, calculating, as if trying to determine the risk of her defiance. The room was silent, hanging on every word. Meanwhile, Chuck leaned slightly forward, his own expression a mix of pride and concern. Mary caught the glint of admiration in his eyes, and it fueled her fire. It was time to speak louder, more clearly. "Everyone here knows the challenges we face, but hiding from them won't make them disappear. We need to confront our issues head-on, together, as a team. That's the only way to build a future we all can be proud of." Her words sparked a flicker of energy in the room. A brave soul from the back, a woman named Clara, raised her hand. "She's right." Clara's voice rang clear. "If we can't speak about our struggles, then what is the point of being part of this team?" A ripple of agreement surged through the crowd. A few others echoed Clara's sentiment, emboldened by her courage. "I'm glad you feel that way," Harlan replied, his tone sharper than before. "But don't forget who signs your paycheck. Challenging authority has consequences." Mary felt every heartbeat thumping in her chest. Silence fell again, thick with tension. This was the moment of truth, and she had to seize it. "Then let us talk about those consequences," she replied, her voice steady. "We spoke about our vulnerabilities in that last meeting because we want change. We deserve better than survival. We deserve dignity and growth." Harlan's eyes narrowed, the flicker of anger unmistakable. "This isn't the time or place for your revolution, Mary. Think of your career, think of your colleagues. Do you want to crush their hopes?" The room shifted, eyes darting between Harlan and Mary. A subtle, collective inhale became almost audible. Each person was contemplating the risk Mary was putting out there. Would they join her in this confrontation, or would they shy away, save their own skin? The tension was agonizing, but Mary drew on the strength within her. "No," she said resolutely, "I want to lift us up. I want us to thrive, without fear. But I cannot do it alone. We need to support one another." In that moment, something changed. Heads nodded. A few murmured in agreement. Harlan's frown deepened, but there was uncertainty lurking in his eyes. As the room buzzed with a newfound sense of purpose, Mary felt a rush of determination surge through her. "Whatever happens next, we're a team. We must stand together." But before she could finish, the door swung open, and another executive entered, a face familiar to them all. It was Ruth, the chief operations officer, and her presence shook the room. "Mary, what is going on here?" Ruth's eyes narrowed, glancing between Mary and Harlan. What had just shifted? The tension seemed to lurch again, every heart in the room racing with possibilities. As their eyes locked, Mary realized she had a new ally or an additional threat. Would Ruth help them rise, or would her arrival extinguish the flame they had just ignited? The stakes just got higher, and the battle for their voices was far from over. Ruth's presence felt like a jolt of electricity shot through the room. Her reputation as a no-nonsense leader preceded her, and everyone instinctively shifted a little, the air thick with anticipation. Mary held Ruth's gaze, searching for a hint of support. She needed that belief now more than ever. Harlan straightened up, regaining his composure, though the pinch of anxiety still flickered in his eyes. "Ruth, we were just having a discussion about maintaining team integrity and loyalty," he said smoothly, attempting to regain control of the narrative. Mary could almost hear the collective breaths being held. Would Ruth side with Harlan, or could she bring a more humane perspective to the table? "Mary," Ruth said in a measured tone, I understand you're passionate about fostering an open environment, but you have to realize the challenges we face as a company. Mary felt the heat rising in her chest. With all due respect, Ruth, addressing those challenges starts with transparency and trust. We can't fix our problems if we're afraid to talk about them. Chuck's encouraging nod from the back was a small beacon of hope. Clara shifted beside him, her eyes filled with determination. What if Ruth could see that the tide was turning? Harlan's lip curled slightly, a hint of a smirk that made Mary's stomach churn. See, even Ruth understands the gravity of the situation. This isn't just about feelings, it's about accountability and results. But Ruth's brow furrowed, and Mary noticed a flicker of hesitation cross her face. Maybe it's both, Ruth replied thoughtfully. We don't have to sacrifice our humanity for productivity, but we do need to navigate these waters carefully. Mary's heart raced. Could it be a potential shift in the corporate mindset? She pressed on. That's exactly what I'm saying. If we build a workplace where we can express concerns without fear, we'll be stronger together. We'll become more innovative, more engaged. Imagine the possibilities. Ruth glanced around the room, taking in the glimmers of hope reflected in her colleague's eyes. A spark of something, maybe inspiration, lit up her features. You're right, Mary. It's about creating the right atmosphere where everyone feels safe to voice their opinions. I think we can start that conversation. Cheers erupted, fueled by surprised laughter and shared relief. Those who had been hesitant now began to stand a little straighter. Mary could feel the shift settling deeper within her teammates. They were finding their voices, but Harlan's face darkened. Now just a minute, this is not a democracy. You cannot seriously believe that opening the floodgates for just everyone to speak will lead to anything productive. Sometimes it takes a flood to wash away the stagnation. Mary shot back, defiance sparking a fire within her. The room crackled with tension again. Eyes darted between Mary, Harlan, and Ruth, each viewing this moment in entirely different shades. With conviction lining her words, Ruth said, "Maybe it's time we allow that flood, Harlan. If we're going to evolve, we need to make space for everyone." The crowd erupted again. This time, it felt different, fueled not just by relief, but by belief in something greater. Mary looked around, her heart swelling. They were ready to confront whatever would come next. But then Ruth's phone buzzed on the table, breaking through the charged atmosphere. She glanced down, her expression changing abruptly. "Excuse me, I need to take this," she said, stepping away. Mary felt that familiar weight, a gnawing fear that maybe all this progress could unravel too quickly. Harlan's calculating eyes never left her. His smirk had returned, but now it felt laced with threat. "Let us see if this feeling of camaraderie lasts after Ruth's phone call," he murmured, loud enough for the crowd to hear. The room tensed again. Blindsided by possible betrayals, Mary's heart sank. Did they have enough momentum to sustain their newfound courage? In those fleeting moments, everything felt precarious. Would this initial victory hold, or would the tide turn once more? As Ruth walked back, her expression was unreadable. Mary knew that whatever was said next could change everything. Was this the moment she would learn what it truly took to transform their workplace or face a new battle altogether? As Ruth approached, the tension in the room was palpable. The results of her call were etched on her face, a mixture of concern and resolve that made Mary's pulse quicken. Ruth cleared her throat, and the room fell silent again, anticipation hanging thick in the air. "There's been an incident," Ruth began, her voice firm but laden with gravity. "A major issue has come to light regarding one of our projects. We need to address this, and I can't do it alone." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Mary's heart raced. This was the moment to prove their resilience, to show that the team could confront adversity together. But Harlan's brows knitted closer together, suspicion radiating off him like heat from a fire. "We're all in this together, right?" Mary chimed, stepping forward, sensing the unease in the room. "Let us tackle this head-on. We need to discuss it openly." Ruth nodded, clearly encouraged by Mary's insistence. "Exactly. We need to establish clear communication right now. We can't afford to hide anything. If there have been mistakes, let us own up and learn from them." Chuck and Clara exchanged glances full of understanding. The room started to pulse with that earlier momentum again. There was no going back. They had to stand united. Harlan interjected, his voice sharp, cutting through the rising hope. What if it's not just a mistake, but something more serious? Shouldn't we consider damage control? We can't let information out that could harm our reputations. But the murmurs in the crowd shifted. Others were finding their voices, born not from fear, but from a growing sense of empowerment. That's the exact problem, Mary said passionately. Hiding things makes it worse. Let us be transparent. Transparency leads to trust. It's how we grow stronger. Ruth watched, more alert now, mulling over the combined energy in the room. We'll have to prioritize a full review of what went wrong, she stated, lifting her chin. We'll share details with everyone, but we need to create a plan together on how to move forward. It starts with dialogue. People began to respond, one after another, exchanging thoughts and fears. Their voices layered together, creating a newfound sense of unity that surged beneath the surface. Mary felt the suffocating weight lift, replaced by exhilaration. They were doing it, they were taking control. But just as the air felt lighter, an email notification pinged on Ruth's phone. She glanced down, her expression hardening. Yes, I understand. Just a moment. Ruth turned her back to the group, speaking urgently into her phone. The worried expression deepened on her face as she listened. The atmosphere shifted again, uncertainty creeping back in. Harlan seized the moment, as wolves do when they sense a weak spot in a herd. This is exactly why we should maintain control of our messaging, he said with a sly smile. Look at this chaos. You think unguarded conversations will make anything better? Hesitation filled the air, and for a moment, doubt flickered across faces. Were they strong enough to face whatever challenges lay ahead? Mary stepped forward again, ready to fight for the vision she believed in. If we run scared, Harlan, then we are already lost. We owe it to ourselves to hold each other accountable. This is not just a corporate issue, it's personal. We each play a part in this team. Mary could see the fire rekindling in the others around her. In that moment, she looked at Ruth, who appeared to be considering the gravity of what was unfolding. What would it take for them all to step into the light rather than retreat into shadows? Ruth hung up the phone, her expression serious, her decision looming just beneath the surface. All right, let us get back to talking, she said, her voice settling like a rock in the turbulent waters of the gathering. But the weight of her next words would determine if they would sink or swim. Because I need each of you to be prepared for what is coming. Everyone held their breath. What did that mean, and how would it change everything they had just fought for? Mary's heart raced as she watched Ruth gather her thoughts. The room felt electric, like a tightly coiled spring ready to snap. The air was thick with both anxiety and a flicker of determination. Ruth took a deep breath, her hands clenched at her sides. I just got off the line with the board. They've informed me that there's more to this incident than we initially thought. This problem goes back months. We've been working with faulty data, and it's affected our project significantly. Each word was heavy, as if she were laying bricks on a fragile wall. Gasps filled the room again, louder this time. Whispers erupted, uncertainty weaving through the crowd like a dark thread. Mary felt her stomach drop. Faulty data? Are we talking about safety? Her voice was barely a whisper, straining against disbelief. Yes, Ruth replied, locking eyes with Mary. The wild uncertainty in the room stopped as everyone turned their focus onto Ruth. The safety of our product is in question. We need to investigate this deeply and quickly. A collective shiver ran through the group. Harlan smirked, a self-satisfied look on his face. I knew it. This is what I warned about improper oversight. We need to control the narrative before this goes public. He leaned back, arms crossed, a king surveying his court. But Mary couldn't let his cynical tone dominate again. Harlan, if we run from this, the damage control will be worse. We have to own this problem. We can't hide behind fancy words or corporate speak. This isn't just about reputation. It's about the people who put their trust in us. Ruth glanced at Mary, her expression softening, but awareness flickered across her features. You're right, Mary. We need to be transparent with our team and our customers. People deserve to know the truth if we are to regain their trust. The murmurs hushed into a focused silence. People looked at each other, realization dawning. Clara stepped forward, her voice steady. So what is our plan? We can't fix what we don't understand. We need all hands on deck. Mary nodded, her heart swelling at the unity forming. Let us start by gathering all the data we can. Each of us needs to speak up if we've noticed anything off during our project cycles. No more whispers in the shadows. If something is wrong, we confront it together. Ruth smiled faintly, the tightness in her expression easing. I need volunteers for a task force. We have to dig into this and bring clarity. Her gaze swept across the crowd, and hands began shooting up, one after the other. Mary felt a flame of hope ignite within her. But just as momentum picked up, Ruth's phone buzzed in her pocket again, breaking through the optimism like a cold splash of water. She looked down, her eyes narrowing as she read the new message. There's news coming from the press. They're catching wind of this. They could break the story any moment. The room darkened with the weight of that reality. Anxiety whipped through the air again, as people exchanged anxious glances. Mary felt the pulse of fear, but she couldn't let it consume her. It was now or never. They needed to decide who they were going to be. Listen, she said, taking a step forward. It's not too late for us to control this. If we get ahead of the story, if we share our truth, we can show them we're serious about change. We're not just a company. We're a family that stands for what's right. Cheers erupted, a resurgence of that fire they had just ignited moments before. But as excitement bubbled, Mary could see Ruth still processing the implications of their looming crisis. The extra phone buzz in her pocket told its own story. What happens next? Harlan asked, his tone more serious now. How do we prepare for the worst? Mary took a deep breath, knowing that this was just the beginning. We swing into action, she declared, a fierce determination in her voice. We'll gather all the insights, work together, and create our narrative. And most importantly, we have to be ready to face the truth, no hiding. The electricity in the air shifted, full of focused energy. But looming in the background was that ticking clock. Would they act in time to salvage what was being threatened? As they moved forward with a sense of purpose, an uncomfortable clarity washed over Mary. Because we're about to find out what true resolve means. And it might change everything we thought we knew. How would they balance the truth with their reputations? Would they be courageous enough to face what lay ahead? Mary stood resolute, the room buzzing with energy. Each face reflected a mix of fear, hope, and determination. It wasn't just about fixing a mistake anymore. It became a fight for integrity and a testament to their values. Okay, everyone. Ruth's voice cut through the murmur. Let us start gathering the data. Each of you needs to report anything you've seen or heard that feels off. Transparency is key here. As the team split up to begin their work, Mary felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. She approached Clara, who was already hunched over her laptop, fingers flying over the keys. Clara, do you think we can pull together a timeline of events? Mary asked, urgency lacing her tone. Absolutely. If we can connect the dots clearly, it'll help, Clara replied, her voice steady, igniting a spark of belief in Mary. The clock on the wall ticked loudly, each second a reminder of the time slipping away. The closer they got to the press breaking their story, the more tangible the pressure felt. As Mary dove into the task at hand, she noticed Harlan pacing by the windows, glancing outside as if the answers were out there in the world, waiting for him. She knew he had his own agenda, and it set her on edge. This is a moment for honesty. We need to focus, Harlan. Not whatever game you think you can play. He paused, turning back toward her with a raised brow. Focus? Is that what you call this? If we act as if this doesn't impact our reputations, we're fooling ourselves. Better to shield the company than let the truth slash through us. That's exactly the problem. Mary shot back, exasperated. This isn't just business. Lives are at stake. We need to protect people. Harlan rolled his eyes. You're naive, Mary. The world isn't that black and white. You think your noble intentions matter in the face of a scandal? Better to be pragmatic. Tension crackled like static electricity, but Mary refused to back down. We'll see how naive I am when we face the press. Let us put lives before profits. When this storm hits, the truth will either sink us or save us. With every shifting moment in that room, the mix of determination and anxiety intensified. Ruth took control, drawing everyone back into the fold. Gather back in 10 minutes. I want to hear what we have so far. As the team reconvened, Mary felt a flood of adrenaline. They shared findings and whispered worries. Each revelation felt like a step closer to true clarity, but uncertainty still loomed overhead. The data we accessed shows irregularities in consumer feedback. Clara's voice trembled slightly. People are reporting issues, and we failed to address them adequately. We need to escalate this. Mary nodded, her heart racing. Then let us confront it. We can't just patch things over. We need to fix the root cause. That's what will earn trust back. Ruth's face lit up as if Mary had ignited something inside her. Yes, but we need to prepare too. Those reporters aren't looking for the side of the story that makes us look good. Just then, Ruth's phone buzzed again, and she glanced at the screen, her expression turning serious. It's the board. They want to know our stance before the press release hits. They're insisting we put together a formal statement. Mary inhaled sharply. We need to decide together what that statement will be. It can't be just corporate spin. We need to craft an honest narrative that embodies our commitment to change, Ruth replied, determination rising in her voice. We aren't just a company. We're human beings trying to do what's right. We have to be bold, Clara chimed in, glancing back at the group. Are we ready to stand together through this? To fight not only for our reputation, but for the lives we might impact? The room paused, tension hanging thick in the air. Strong emotions tightly coiled around each of them. Would they unite under their shared belief, or let fear tear them apart? As the weight of the choice settled, Mary knew their next steps would define them. We can't shy away from the truth anymore, Mary declared, her voice clear and commanding. Let us write our story the way it should be told. It'll be tough, but we can change this narrative. But would their courage withstand the fallout? Would they truly be ready to face the consequences of their actions? All eyes turned towards the door, the attention spiraling out into the unknown, where the press and responsibility awaited. Could they rally their resolve and emerge strong enough to face the world outside? Mary felt the air thrum with energy as everyone shifted. She stood at the center of it, anchoring their collective resolve. This is it, she thought. This was their moment, a chance to craft an honest narrative that didn't just obscure the truth, but embraced it, even if it meant facing adversity head-on. Look, she said, her voice steady. If we aim to communicate our mishaps with transparency, we have to start right here, among ourselves. This isn't just about GM, it's about the lives we touch. Chuck nodded furiously, a smile breaking on his face. Exactly. If we don't back down now, we're strengthening our community and each of us individually. We're showing what we believe in. As Mary met Clara's steady gaze, a collective understanding flowed through the room like an electric current. Let us gather everything, Mary urged. Every detail, every concern. No fear. If we put it all on the table, we'll find a way to navigate this storm. It felt as if the room breathed alongside her, each soul united by a shared purpose. But then, as if reflected on a flickering movie screen, the door creaked open, and a stern face stared back at them. It was Harlan. What's this? An emergency meeting? His sardonic tone cut through the buzzing anticipation. Yes, Ruth answered, stepping up, her unwavering demeanor shining like a beacon. We're preparing our response to the press. There's no more hiding. The tension in Harlan tightened like a bowstring. You're going to hand them your vulnerabilities? You think that's wise? Vulnerability builds trust, Mary countered, feeling her internal determination blaze brighter. In our case, it'll put us on the path to redemption, not just for GM, but for everyone depending on us. Gathered faces shifted, eyes sparked with defiance. Perhaps, together, they could weather this storm. Harlan's disbelief morphed into an uncomfortable quiet. You're playing with fire, he warned, but it felt like a last-minute bluff in a losing game. I think we prefer the fire over living in the shadows, Clara spoke up firmly, emboldened by the camaraderie they built. More murmurs of agreement followed, a growing chorus of hope rising. Very well then, Harlan conceded, his tone warm yet icy. But if this backfires, we own this mess together. With that, the group turned to the task at hand. Mary felt the thrill of purpose fill her chest like a warm glow. They crafted a statement that echoed their commitment, the commitment to be better, to apologize, to embrace accountability, and to regain the trust of both the community and their workforce. They were merging their stories, their pain, their hope. As they finalized the statement, each word felt like healing. But still looming was the knowledge of the press release and what would come next. An unavoidable wave of anxiety hung in the air, threatening to pull them under. Hours passed, and finally, silence blanketed the room. All eyes turned toward Ruth as she inhaled deeply. "It's time. It's now or never," she said, determination shining through her usually stoic demeanor. Mary exchanged reassuring glances with Chuck and Clara, excitement pulsing through her veins. Together, they stepped towards the cameras while holding hands, an unbreakable bond forged through the fire of honesty. "Good morning, everyone. I'm Ruth, and these are our voices, our team. Today, we take responsibility." Mary felt a surge of emotion wash over her as Ruth became a lighthouse for their journey forward. Then, Mary spoke, her heart echoing within her chest. "Today isn't just about us, but about the families depending on GM. We owe them more than profits. We owe them transparency, honesty, and reinvention." As they shared their truths, words poured out of them like a flood, illuminating the depths of their struggles and their commitment to do right by everyone connected to GM. Mary glanced up during her speech at the crowd of familiar faces. Tom and Clara were there, resolute and proud. And as she continued, she saw the room begin to swell with admiration or recognition that the tide was truly turning. Applause erupted, growing louder and filling the space between their hearts. Tears brimmed in Mary's eyes, a mix of victory and relief. They stood united, enveloped in a wave of dignity and hope, having created a moment that would mark a pivotal transformation in GM's history. Days turned into weeks, action following action. Stakeholders were held accountable, systems were revamped, and a new world had begun to emerge. Mary could see her community healing, families thriving, and a culture reshaping itself around values of integrity and innovation. One evening, sitting at her desk, the city of Detroit twinkling below, she smiled. Knowing they didn't just change a company, they altered the very fabric of what it meant to be a part of something larger. "We did it," Chuck said softly from the doorway at the end of a long day. "Together, we changed everything." And as Mary stepped outside, the sun setting over a reborn Detroit, she thought of all those faces she had once seen filled with doubt. Now they glowed with purpose. This was the moment she knew change meant courage. As Mary inhaled the crisp air, she realized they had become a part of something bigger, a family created not just from machines, but from heartbeats, hope, and the promise of tomorrow. Now is the time for you to become part of this journey. Don't wait not even one more second to show your support. Subscribe immediately to our channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help our community grow. Comment your reactions and feelings about this inspiring ending. Let your voice be heard. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this beautiful transformation. True fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Let us keep this energy going.